Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Many Faces of Cancer podcast. I am your host, Melissa Groswell, and joining me today is Dr. Cindy Howard. And Cindy is a leader in wellness and the author of the award-winning book, Positively Altered, Finding Happiness at the Bottom of a Chemo Bag. As a board-certified chiropractic internist and nutritionist, she owns Innovative Health and Wellness Center and serves in a variety of leadership positions, including the boards of Inguardia Health and Fullscript, and is a respected voice at the longstanding American Chiropractic Association Illinois delegate for nearly 20 years. Distinguished for her exceptional contribution to her field, Dr. Cindy was honored as Illinois' ACA Chiropractor of the Year in 2020 and received the prestigious Flynn Lynch Award in 2015 for her outstanding dedication to healthcare advancement. As the founder of the Positively Altered Project, Dr. Cindy unites professionals to reimagine workplace and personal wellness. Through her book, podcast, and speaking engagements, she delivers science-backed strategies for sustainable well-being that integrate mental, physical, and emotional health. Known for her warmth and authenticity, Dr. Cindy inspires audiences with her quirky sense of humor, practical wisdom on resilience, and knack for finding joy amid adversity. So welcome to the show, Dr. Cindy.
Oh my gosh, it's so great to be here. And thanks for such an awesome introduction. Usually it's short, like she's kind of smart and really funny. And then that's the whole intro, and we just go. So that was great.
I am always grateful when somebody sends me a bio because then I don't have to make it up on the fly. So this is actually perfect. I'm very happy to read other people's accolades.
Oh, it's fun, but at the same time, the meat and potatoes of the conversation is always better than any bio, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's fun.
But I like people to know what they're getting themselves into.
Okay.
Sometimes it's hard to hear it when somebody else speaks it too. You sit there like cringy, like, oh my gosh, that's just too much.
Well, my favorite is when you go to an event and they have a bio that's like about 32 years old and they read all this old stuff. And then you're sitting there going, that's not true anymore. No, that's not true either. And it's like, all right, well, I guess it's going to be true for today. So yeah,
well, this is true.
Is current and good. So
okay, good.
We're on the right path.
All right. So, and you are a fellow chiropractor. I think the first thing that you said when we initially talked was, how did you get away with retiring? Because I want to do that too.
Yeah. I'm still 3 kids, single mom, tied to the building of the practice. I love what I do. So, retirement's a funny word because I'm not sure I could sit around and do nothing, but yeah, it's good to see other people doing amazing things that way because then I know there's an end, right? Which is just the start of a new beginning of something else, which is great. But
Absolutely.
One day I'll have that check mark on my bio and it'll be really fun to be able to say that.
Well, and it's one of those things, my husband is a corporate guy and he talks about retirement a lot because that's what corporate people do. And he tries to have these conversations with me about preparing for retirement and saving for retirement. And, I think about retirement as like sitting in a chair and watching television all day. And being an entrepreneur, I'm like, you need to come up with a different word because yes, I retired from chiropractic and I moved on to something else. And then I moved on to something else. Like I envision myself doing some kind of work, until the day that I drop dead.
I love it. I talk a lot about, picking better words and the definition of words. And really, if you think about that word retire, like it's a bad word all the way around. Like to
it's not a bad word. There's no good and bad. It's just
no,
it doesn't work for some people.
No, I'm going to hold that it's still bad.
Okay.
Well, and only because it doesn't make sense to me, right? Because again, there's a renewment, I think, in retirement, even if you do choose to sit around and watch TV, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's a reinvention or a nothingness. Like both are really great concepts if it's the right fit for the right person. But I wish there was a more uplifting word, I think, because there's a negative connotation sometimes to retire. Like you're done, you're finished, it's over. And
exactly. And we all need a purpose.
It's a change, right? It's a shift into something different. And whatever that different is, if it works for you, it's great.
Spoken from an entrepreneur. My husband, his whole life is like planning for retirement and saving for retirement. That's like the end goal when you're in corporate America, is getting to the point where you retire. And I don't
Well,
know.
maybe that's because we come from a profession where a lot of us don't retire. Maybe
Right.
that's part of, it's our background, right? It's our training of like, we just keep going and going and going and taking care of people for the rest of our lives. And I don't
Hey,
know.
my
We went to
first
school,
my
nobody.
first chiropractor that I had when I was 12 years old, that was the first chiropractor that I ever went to. He actually died of a heart attack in his office. I don't know if he was actually adjusting patients at the time, but he worked, like, his last day, he died in his office. And I used to say that was kind of my goal, is just to be able to continue working until, one day, no more. And then things change. And maybe
Right.
I'll just, pass doing something else.
Yeah, I would love to come home from work, have an amazing meal with the people I love, and then go to sleep and not wake up. So I'm okay if my last day is spent working, but I don't think I want my last moment to be in the office.
Guess it depends on who the patient is. No, I'm just kidding.
But maybe sooner rather than later in some cases then too. Right? Oh, I didn't say that out loud. I'm not wishing that. There are days, right? There are days. There are days. There are people.
All right. Well, all right. I love this. What did you say? Her quirky sense of humor. There we go.
Well, and there you have it. Yep.
All right. So take us back, because you told me that you self-diagnosed your cancer. So take us back to what was going on at that time, and how you came to the realization that you had cancer.
Yeah, it's a great sob story. You ready? Like, here's the victim's story as we go. So my mother had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. I was going through a horrible divorce. The dog died of pancreatic cancer, and I was under a lot of stress. So why not join the party, right? Like it was just inevitable, I suppose. So it was a bad time in the Dr. Cindy world, I suppose, right? And it was interesting because I had 2 lymph nodes that popped out of my neck, and I thought, this is weird. I must be getting sick. Because why would you have a swollen lymph node? And after 3, 4, 5 days, I was like, oh, I'm not sick. This is even weirder, because I was waiting, to be in bed for a couple of days, like not feeling well. And because I know probably a little too much in that regard, right? I didn't ignore it. And I wound up getting a chest x-ray to see what was going on. There were 2 lymph nodes in my neck, 2 in my chest. I ran a bunch of blood work because I also do that all the time. And when I got my blood work back, I kind of panicked. And I don't do that. Like, you get labs back with the patient and you go, okay, like, we're going to handle this. And when you look at your own labs and you have to be your own doctor, it actually gets a little weird. So I started to, have a little bit of I don't know if it was a full-blown panic attack, but you get a little anxiety about it. And I referred myself to the University of Chicago, and you fast forward to a CT scan and a biopsy, and then eventually a PET scan, and stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma. And when, you can't, it's hard to sit across from yourself at the table to give yourself a diagnosis. It's very weird to read the piece of paper that says, cancerous process. And you go, what? Like, what did I just read? So it was a very strange thing to do kind of on your own. While you're waiting for results for somebody else to give you the bad news, you give it to yourself.
Not quite sure which is better. Maybe they're just different.
Just
getting
different.
it from somebody else versus seeing it right in front of your face.
Yeah, I mean, I know my bedside manner, so at least I wasn't nasty about it. I was like, okay, we got
or
cancer.
dismissive about it,
Yeah, what are we gonna do? Like, well, all right, we gotta get on this. We gotta get on this because cancer. Versus somebody just maybe not responding in a way, because that's hard, right? When you sit across the table, I think, from another practitioner, if you don't really resonate, right? If personalities are different, and again, no right or wrong, just different. Sometimes when you don't resonate with that person, sometimes that news is even harder, I think, to get when there isn't a comfort level with the person that is there to help you. And it's really important. So I had myself and crack jokes, because that's what I do. And, that's how the self-deprecating humor helps make things a little bit easier. And then you go home and you cry, and then you throw a temper tantrum, and then you call friends, and then you ask for advice, and then you figure it out.
Yes, that was the first oncologist that I went to see. It was immediate. This is not going to work. I do not gel. Like, next kind of thing. So, yes.
Yes.
So tell us, like, for those who might not know, like, I've had somebody on the show with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So tell us a little bit about what Hodgkin's lymphoma is, and maybe the difference, and who was this Hodgkin's guy anyway?
Yeah, you know what? I don't
Yeah, I
know.
don't
I
know who
don't
the
know,
Hodgkin guy
right?
was.
I think they should rename it Howard's lymphoma since I had it and I'm still alive and he's probably not. I'd have to Google, I do turn to Dr. Google every once in a while for information like that now that AI is present on it. So I'm not exactly, I don't remember. You know what? Chemo brain is real and it carries into your mid 50s. So clearly I don't remember.
That's okay.
But it's a blood cancer, right? At the end of the day, it's a cancer that affects the blood. Out of all the different blood cancers, I'll tell you it's a good one to get. The cure rate, and we don't talk remission, the cure rate is, between 70 and 85%, depending on who you talk to and what you do. So
Fantastic.
like, if you have to pick one, if everybody out there has to put a check mark next to something, at least I picked a better one, I suppose, than others. But it was interesting because I had what was called CD20 positive, and there's certain antigens, or let's do it this way, like a label, if you will, on the cell that's a little bit different that can indicate different types of cancers. So mine was a little weird. I don't like to do anything kind of run of the mill standard textbook.
Right.
So the CD positive was a little bit different and warranted another drug, which is really fun since I don't like drugs. So it was great that it gave me an opportunity to embrace something that I hadn't embraced for, decades of practice. But a cancer of the blood, right? So it's circulating within the body versus like sometimes we think of a tumor where there's a very specific location, like
Mhm.
lung cancer, it's in the lung field, it's a tumor, it's there. This is circulating within the blood, even though there were swollen lymph nodes and tumors present. So
Okay.
sometimes a little, I think, scarier too, because it's like all over the place. Like when you think
Yeah.
blood, now all over the place, where were the tumors? The reason for the stage 2B, everything gets graded in cancer because we want to know serious, not so serious, and yet
Mhm.
all of cancer is probably serious, even if it's graded low. It was all indicative of basically the location of where they spotted the tumors on the scan. So everything was diaphragm up for me, which was good news. It was also not metastasized or traveling, if you will, into the bone, right? Because when we get cancer that moves into bone, we get, not that it can't be overcome, I believe until you take your very last breath, there's always something we can do, but harder, right? Much harder to overcome if there's, metastasis to other organs and bones. So I was very fortunate that it was caught relatively early, I suppose, where, cure rate was a conversation, which is great. Great.
And so you kind of embraced allopathic medicine, for your
Oh,
treatments and things. And, I've talked to people that they go to a clinic in Mexico and no judgment or anything, but like, oh, there's no way. And, I experienced that when I was first diagnosed, like, well, if I had cancer, I would do this and I would do this. And I kind of really said, well, when you get cancer, you let me know if that is still the plan. Because 10 years ago, I would have said there's no way that I would do the things that I did because I'm going to go the all natural route. But when you get that diagnosis or diagnose yourself, and this is the protocol, like it's not that difficult of a decision usually. I don't know if it was for you or not. Like I chose
was.
my treatments. I chose not to do chemo
Mhm.
because I did not think that it was right for me at the time. But I did go with surgery and radiation, and I just wanted it gone.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. And embrace is a funny word. I still don't know. I actually don't think I embraced it. I think I accepted it. Right. I
Okay.
think there was a difference
Go
for
back to
me.
those word choices.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I accepted it. And it was funny because just like you, I mean, I practice what we call natural health care, right? Like no drugs, no surgeries. Like we think we have answers for everything in that realm. And a lot of times we do, but sometimes we just don't, right? Or they aren't the best one. And I would have told you the same thing. I mean, chemo is poison, right? I joke that when they give you chemo, it's like throwing a big parade in your body. And then I have to come as the street sweeper and clean up all the garbage they left behind, right? So no, I would have told you I never would have done chemotherapy. Well, when you've got that cancer word in front of you, right, on a piece of paper, so you know it's real, assuming it was the right test results, but my name was on it, so I went with it was real. And I called a very dear friend of mine, Dr. Michael Taylor, who I trust with my life, and he treats a lot of people who are walking through cancer. And I said, okay, I'll get on a plane to Germany. I'm going for 6 weeks. I got the kids covered. I don't care what it costs. Like, send me wherever you need to send me. And he's like, nope, you're going to stay in this country and you're going to get chemotherapy. And I'm like, no, not doing it. He's like, yes, you are. And I'm like, no. I mean, we literally had like a little, like we were siblings, like we had a little fight, because I'm like, I'm not doing it. Give me the really fun alternative way to do this. And by the way, I can travel Europe when I'm done because I'm ready over there. Like let's find the upside in this because like who wants to like tour Illinois when you grew up here? Nobody. So, we duked it out a little bit, and he said, listen, you got 3 kids that need you alive, and chemo has a cure rate with this particular cancer. So you're going to stay home and you're going to get chemotherapy. And I went, okay, Mike, I'll do what you do, like a little kid, like, okay, I'll do what you tell me to do. But I have to have my own rules around that. And that's what I did, right? So even though I went the allopathic route, I did IV vitamin C day before, day of after. I was popping 150 pills a day perfectly, right? And the list goes on. And I fought my oncologist with things he wanted me to do that I said, And then they wanted to do radiation, and I said, And I'm here, 11 years later to tell the story. So I picked well somehow. But to your point, until somebody is actually faced, right, with any sort of crisis or adversity, it's so easy for us to judge what they would do, but really stop it because you don't know, right? And everybody's got to be okay with their own decisions, no matter what they are.
Yeah. And it's one of the things that I've loved about, I've been doing this podcast for a little over a year. I've interviewed, 65 people or something. And, everybody's story is totally unique.
Mm-hmm.
And I've probably interviewed 25 people who have had breast cancer because that's kind of the world that I live in. But every single story is completely unique, and everyone's journey is their own journey, and they make the decisions that are best for them, that are best for their family. And there should be no judging or criticizing or, giving unsolicited advice of, oh, you should do this, or I wouldn't do this or anything. It's, you really, this is your body, and you have to think about yourself. You have to think about your family. And, I talked with my husband before I made the choices that I made. My daughter is grown, not that I want to leave her or anything, but it was a little different. I have a really good friend who had, hers was triple negative, but she had a 5-year-old granddaughter, and she's like, and she's very natural oriented. She's like, I'm going to do chemo because I want to be around for my 5-year-old granddaughter. And the chances of that are better. They couldn't give me huge difference in survivability by doing the chemo as without the chemo. And I was like, okay, that's just not really going to work for me right now.
And I think, no, I agree with you. And I think the challenge, though, is when we look at medicine, right? And I'm sure there's going to be people out there listening that are like, she's off her rocker for saying this. And it's okay, because I just want to challenge you to think. But we have these statistics, right? And we have these studies, and we have the standard of care, and we have this textbook answer. And all of that is still good, right? Because it gives us a basis to start somewhere. But what we really, in my opinion, need to do is take every person and take them out of the textbook and out of the study and out of the standard of care, and have that conversation with them as an individual, right? To say, okay, we think this can work better. Here are the choices. And let's really educate people on what is really out there that you can pick from. And sometimes it really is an a la carte menu, right? I want a little of this, and I want a little of that, and I want a little of you, and I don't want so much of you because we don't resonate. And let's create our own plan from this diagnosis forward, knowing also, and I always tell people this because this is the part that irks me, even if you say yes to something, you're allowed to change your mind, right? Just because you start on a course doesn't mean you have to finish on that same course, right? Sometimes we veer off the road, and that's where the best adventure takes place, is getting off that 2-lane highway and four-wheeling it, into a little bit of danger and still being alive to tell the story. So I want people out there, again, no judgment, do whatever it is, but go get your homework and go get an education and go ask 100 people, right? So that you can take,
or at least ask 2 or 3.
Okay. 100 might be excessive.
But at least get a second opinion. Absolutely.
All right, maybe we can compromise at about 4 or 5. I'll come down from 100 if
Okay.
But you get my point, right? Mm-hmm. It's just, I think the days of my doctor says do this, so I do exactly what he tells me to do really should be over, because there's so much out there in this space that what we don't know. And I think there's so much value to what we don't know that we can learn. And I want to encourage people to ask those questions so they get the info.
Absolutely. Ask all the questions. I had a conversation with someone who, she's one of my clients, and, he's an orthopedist, and she's having problems with her knees, and he won't listen to her. He's like, you're just older, you have arthritis, we're not going to do anything. And she's in pain constantly. And, I keep telling her, go get a second opinion. You don't have to just listen to one person. And if a doctor will not answer your questions or dismisses you, you need to find another doctor, because this should be a conversation. It should be an equal partnership in your care, not I'm the doctor, you must listen to me because I know everything.
Here's what I love. I wish we as physicians, instead of saying there's nothing to do or don't do anything, I'd rather us say, I don't know what to do for you. Right? I like that better. I would
Then
rather
you might
be
leave
told,
them and go somewhere else.
correct. Like
Right.
I don't know what to do for you, but I would bet somewhere in the world of the millions of people that exist, somebody might have an idea that I don't know anything about. Right. And that's the key. And that's what I meant by until you take your very last breath, there is always something that can be done to potentially help you. Cancer or arthritis, right? It doesn't make a difference. But just as the body goes bad, the body can go good. So why wouldn't we run down that path to think that instead of relying on the one guy or girl that said, oh, well, at your age, it's just normal to experience this. Yeah. I want to throw out that word normal, like, because there's nothing normal about any of this stuff.
It's a setting on the dryer. That's it.
Oh, see, I kind of like that permanent press setting a little bit better, because then when I leave to go do something else, because I have those rabbit moments where I can't focus on the dryer, I come back. It's not all a wrinkled ball of mess because it was on the permanent press setting.
There you go.
See?
So we're looking at permanent press instead of normal.
I love it. I'm not sure how to incorporate that into a presentation yet, but yes. Permanent press.
Because I don't know. I don't really like the permanent word either, because that's also everything's changing.
See, so even laundry gets it wrong. They got it wrong. We should.
I love I think my setting is refresh. So if I leave it in the dryer for too long and they start to get wrinkled, I just hit the refresh button and it just refreshes it and gets rid of all the wrinkles. And then I can take them out and fold them up.
You know what I see, Melissa? I see an awesome Shark Tank episode where it's you and I pitching Robert and whoever else, Mr. Wonderful, on a brand new washer and dryer that has like settings that make you feel good about yourself and your clothes. And I think it needs a rework.
I think so too.
I do. I see a whole new future for us if this podcasting thing should take a turn in the wrong direction. We're going to go into the laundry business together.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. So we've kind of gone through your cancer. You went through your treatments. You might not have wanted to, but you went through your treatments. And that's the one thing that's great about like lymphoma is it can be cured.
Yes.
Like my cancer, I will never be cured. Anytime I get an NED on a report, I am super, super, super happy, or an all clear, whatever. So kind of take us to the next step. Like once you were cured, once you were done, did you just jump back into life and keep doing the same thing you were doing? Or how did things change for you, once you went through all of the things that you went through?
It's a great question. I think there were two paths. So here's the interesting thing. Even though I'm technically cured, right? I made the 5-year mark. I'm cured. There's no cancer. Research, see, now here's where I'm going to go down that path I don't like. Research states that most people who walk through Hodgkin's lymphoma 20 years later get leukemia. So isn't that awesome to just like,
yay.
I have a calendar for 20 years. I have the date marked. No, I'm just kidding. When leukemia is going to show, like I invited it to a party and I'm wearing my party hat and leukemia is going to show up, and that's worse than lymphoma. So no, I think it's interesting, right? Because one of the reasons I think you wind up with leukemia is because you radiate the crap out of your body by doing radiation, which I refused. And then you get PET scans every 6 months, which I refused because I didn't want to radiate healthy tissue, and I run my blood work and I know what to look for and I'm healthy, right? So I think on one hand, there's still that, now I know what it feels like to have that big scary word, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't ever want to do it again. So I'm no longer invincible, right? Where 20 years ago I was invincible, nothing bad could ever happen to me. I was going to live to be 112. Now I'm still going to live to be 112, but I know I'm not invincible, right? I have to do these right things. So I still have to eat well, and I have to exercise, and I have to run my blood labs, and I have to take my nutrients, and I have to be careful when I take care of my patients, not to run down the rabbit holes with them where emotionally I get sucked in, right? I have to be able to separate so that I can maintain my energy when I'm taking care of really sick people, because I take care of really sick people. And it's really interesting how now it's still about health. It wasn't like, woohoo, check the box, cancer's over, and now I can go like eat candy and, never exercise again because I beat it. But on the other hand, it's very interesting because I do think a part of you also forgets because you beat it. So sometimes you do pick up the piece of candy, right? Because now you're invincible again because you had cancer, but now you don't have cancer. So like, this is easy. And it's no big deal. So it's an interesting dichotomy of like, how do you stay on this healthy path that you know you need, but at the same time, not be so obsessive compulsive that it doesn't allow you to enjoy a couple fun, not that candy is always the best fun thing. I have other fun things I prefer to candy, but like, like do stupid fun things that may not be perfect by whoever standard perfect is. Cause again, I don't know what that means. It's my perfect. It's not anybody else's perfect. Right.
Mhm.
So it's fascinating how I catch myself going, oh, remember your lesson. You got a really big lesson. Don't lose the gift in that lesson that it taught you to pay attention to certain things. So health wise, I find myself sort of, I'm on a very curvy path. Life wise, I think it's awesome. Like, I made cancer fun, and people are going to think that's not like a nutso statement. I mean, I am probably a little crazy, but like, I wanted to find the joy and the gifts and the love in the experience that I truly believe I was missing in my life before it, and it showed it to me. So the cliche of I got rid of toxic people and I embraced the people that I love, but even more importantly, like, it's the little tiny moments that I think we step over because we look for the big moments, the big vacation, the big party, the big milestone, the wedding, right? Like these things that are massive, instead of like, you know what, those couple pages in that chapter of that book really resonated with me today. Or, oh my gosh, the sun, like that sun was so pretty on my drive to work, even though that person was riding my rear end and honking because I was going too slow while I was admiring the sunrise. Like it's those little teeny things that we just don't pay attention to. And they're so meaningful when you stop. And cancer did that for me. It allowed me to stop and look at those tiny little things that I just never, ever would have noticed.
That is beautiful. And hopefully the further you go out, because just like you said, people tend to get obsessive compulsive, and I did, about food after my treatment. Like I didn't eat anything junk. I didn't have any alcohol. I didn't have gluten. I like nothing. It was all whole food. And I was a little obsessive about it, that hopefully, and now I'm a little bit more relaxed. I still eat healthy most of the time, but I will have, ice cream once in a while or something like that. That we just hope that as more time passes, that you don't, not you, but that we don't lose that not taking things for granted kind of thing, that we really feel, oh my gosh, I survived this. I lived this, like, hallelujah. I'm going to appreciate everything. And it's one of the things I've noticed with cancer survivors is that they're better at continuing that appreciation of life and the little things than maybe somebody who survived a car accident or, right, something along those lines. So, I mean, look at you 11 years later and you're still, totally appreciating all of the little things.
But it's still hard, right? Like, regardless, I still find myself sometimes going, well, what are we going to do tomorrow? Instead of like, okay, like this is lovely, right? Like we're having this beautiful conversation. It's fun. Hopefully it's going to change somebody's life in a good way, right? But rather than like, well, what are we going to make for dinner? And what are we going to do later tonight? Just now, right? So for everybody listening, like just now, what are you getting from the words or the person you're sitting next to as you're listening to, or the fact that you're alone and it's lovely because it's quiet. You've got a great podcast to just enjoy, right? I think, it's interesting. I've been doing a lot of research on words because, as I shared with you, words are really important to me and I don't always get them right. It's a constant, it's this marathon for me to keep working on how I use the right words. And it's interesting because the research, now I'm going to go back to the research that I told you to not pay 100% attention to, but it talks about how really we are actually wired to be negative as human beings. It's true, right? We have, it's something like 60,000 thoughts a day and 80% of those are negative. Like we're just wired to go down that way. And the neuroplasticity of our brain is to just think worst case scenario, bad, right? So we have to consciously make this decision to change that around into the positive state. And that's a lot. It's exhausting, right? It takes a lot of energy every single day to be like, today I am going to rock it. Because 2 minutes from now, something's going to happen that the brain goes, no, you're not. Go down that rabbit hole of like, life sucks and why me and how come and, this is terrible. Instead of like, you know what, I'm glad this adversity happened to me because I'm going to find the love and the gifts and enjoy and then share with others what I'm learning. And that's really a lot of work.
Well, we don't grow and we don't learn when things are easy and things are all rosy. It's really through adversity and hardship. And I like to say you have to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough. And we tend to want to avoid the negative situations or the hardships or the breakdowns, but if we don't have those, then we don't get to appreciate what we do have and grow through it, and become, I don't want to say a better person, but just, yeah, we
A
just
different
grow
person,
so
right?
much more through
But
that.
it's interesting because again, you say all these negative things, and it's true. I just use that too, like negative experiences. That word negative has a negative connotation. But what if that negative experience wasn't like my cancer? I don't look at as a negative experience. I really don't. It was a gift. It was a true gift, actually, for me. So when I say cancer was fun, I was never sick. People think I've lost my mind. They're like, but I mean, like, what do you mean you weren't sick? I wasn't sick because I chose not to be sick, right? Cancer was fun because I chose to make it fun versus cancer, how most people think of it is like, oh my God, horrible, right? Like that, like there's nothing positive that comes out of anybody's mouth when you first hear that word. Why not? Why not like, thank you? I mean, I needed a wake up call, right?
Mhm. Me too.
I got one.
Yeah.
Wasn't the one I wanted, but I got one and I chose to look at it differently. So it wasn't negative. That's what's funny is it wasn't negative, but we use that, all these bad things happen to us. Are they really bad things? Or are we just perceiving them as bad?
Well, and they could be, and I'm not going to sit here and say that cancer is lovely and wonderful and it's a great experience for everybody,
It
and
isn't.
like cancer sucks. All right. You get that diagnosis, it sucks. You go through chemotherapy and there are days that suck.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not trying to downplay that at all. It's
No.
just a matter of whether you have a bad moment, a bad day, or a bad year, and we can choose to live in the suck for a few moments
Yes.
and then continue to move forward,
And
and
I
not
love
and
that.
not that have that become your identity and just be a person with cancer. It's like, all right, yes, cancer happened, and now I'm looking forward.
Right. And I did have, and no, I'm not lessening anybody's experience. You are correct, right? But again, there are bad moments versus a bad life. My life has never been bad. I've had some really, really, really crappy moments, truly, and I've cried and I've screamed and I've yelled and I've acted inappropriately and all of those things that come with truly inappropriately that come with those bad moments. But it is that perception of they are just moments that can pass and that you can overcome versus my life does not suck. It's never sucked. There have been moments I thought it did, and then I changed my mind, because they were just those moments. And, and
Absolutely.
and that's what I would love for us to do through cancer because it is scary and it does suck and vomiting is horrible and chemo is horrible and yes, that whole laundry list. So, I hope nobody misunderstands my word fun as a like I'm downplaying those that have negative experiences. Listen, I had negative within my good. My overall was fun, right? But listen, I don't want to depress anybody, but I can tell you those stories, right? Too, but that's not where my focus is. My focus is on the gifts and the joy that I got from it. And quite frankly, I mean, you mentioned the book Positively Altered. I talk about all the crap in there too. I mean, the book isn't like cancer was fun and we went to the circus and, I got to ride the elephant because I was the one who raised my hand with cancer. I mean, it's not that, right? But it's the overall remembrance of what I walked through being beneficial, positive, versus that was a really crappy 6 months of my life. And you just won't hear me saying that. It was actually probably some of the best months of my life because of what I learned.
And honestly, sometimes you have to get to the other side to look back and see it as a blessing. When you're going through it, yes, we have good moments, we have not so good moments, we have crappy days, we have great days. But when you get to the other side and you can look back and see, the beauty
Mm-hmm.
and the blessings that come from it. And I love the tagline, finding happiness at the bottom of a chemo bag. So how did you come up with that? That's awesome.
Yeah. So, the story of the book is actually really interesting because the original working title was Pregnancy is Worse Than Cancer. And I ticked off a lot of people with that working title because they're like, how dare you say cancer is not as bad as pregnancy, right? Like, how do you even compare cancer to pregnancy being bad. Well, for me, it actually, my pregnancy was horrible. I mean, like I almost died giving birth to my daughter. I mean, like I did not have one moment through my pregnancy that I was happy or felt good. And that's not true with cancer. I had moments where I was happy and felt good. So my perspective was very off. So because I ticked off a lot of people, I thought, well, I don't want people to not pick up this book. Like they're going to be offended by the title and then they won't even read, what I think is really fun reading. So I had probably, I don't know, 100, 200, pick a number. And, I like to exaggerate it. So it was probably more like 40. But, I had all these working titles, right? And nothing resonated, nothing at all. And I was doing some work with a friend of mine, Johan, who was branding me. So he came up with the Dr. Cindy logo, right? The brand. And I had to fill out this enormous questionnaire and I was totally annoyed because I don't like doing any of that stuff. I'm like, can't you just slap up a picture and call it my logo? Like this should be easy work. And clearly for those of you out there doing graphic design, it's not easy work, but this questionnaire, and I can't even remember the question that I was answering, but it was like a why behind something, right? He wanted me to dig down deep into my soul so that he could reflect Dr. Cindy in my logo. And I answered the question however I answered it. And then I said, and I hope this leaves people positively altered. And it was in that moment that I knew the original title of the book. I'm like, oh my God, that's it. Like like I want people positively altered from sharing my experience with them. And then in doing some work with this woman, Denise, who helps with a lot of my marketing and my writing and whatnot, she's been just a huge asset to my team. I think she was the one that really came up with sort of we needed the funny Cindy though too, right? Because the stories in the book are funny and the title doesn't say like positively altered, like that doesn't say anything funny.
It's
so
like a self-help book.
Right. She's like, you found happiness in the chemo bag. And it's a little ironic because yes, I did, but also that sort of play on the fact that if you would have asked me 12 years ago, if I would have touched chemo, I would have told you were crazy and I wouldn't have done it. So, that circles back to your comment about, did I embrace or accept the fact that I went down that route? And, and I chose to. I didn't have to, but I chose to. And there was the title of the book. And I'm really proud of it because it really does sort of encompass the whole premise behind the memoir of the book.
I love that. And you can find the book on Amazon, I'm assuming.
Amazon, I think wherever you buy books, but Amazon, listen, Amazon sells toilet paper. You can get my book and read it in the bathroom at the same time. So, so if you're ordering the case of toilet paper, just click. And if you're not a book reader, which, I know a lot of people aren't, you can get it on Kindle too and listen to it while you're on the toilet as well. So
is there an audiobook version of it?
There is. I recorded it myself, which is weird.
Love that.
Hear yourself tell the story. So you do get my voice. So you hear it in my, inflection and how it really happens.
I think memoirs are so wonderful when they are read by the author. Like I'm a huge audiobook listener. That's how I consume most of my book content, like memoirs and fiction, nonfiction. I'm probably going to read it.
Okay.
But and I actually just gave a speech in my Toastmasters group today about whether audiobooks are actually considered reading or not. And it was a great presentation.
Are they?
I'm what?
Are they?
In my opinion, they are. And again, what I kind of came down to was semantics. Like if you look at the word reading as looking at words on a page, then, technically it's not.
Okay.
But if you look at reading as consuming content, I think I said like the poet Horace said that the purpose of reading is to delight and instruct. And if that's the definition of reading, then absolutely audiobooks count. And, I'm not going to tell somebody who only listens to audiobooks that they don't read because that's just not a thing. So I'm always happy when I hear that books are on audio as well.
Yeah, you can't see. Now that's interesting for me because I know if I ever try to listen to an audiobook about 3-4 words in, I'm thinking about something else. Yeah. But if I can focus on the word on a page, I can tune in and I can sit and read a whole book in an afternoon without distraction. But an audiobook, not a chance.
Some people are visual learners. Some people are auditory learners. Like it can be something that's trained. Like my daughter and I, when she was in elementary school, we had a 15-20 minute drive to school and back every day. And I could not stand radio at the time. This was before, satellite radio. So we started listening to audiobooks in the car, and it was a way for us to bond over books. And now she's a voracious reader. even when she's, in engineering school, she still finds the time for pleasure reading. But I feel like that came from that time, just, listening to audiobooks in the car while we were going to and from school. So
Yeah, it's great. And it's nice that it just delivers that content for people who just don't, because again, some people just don't enjoy reading or don't have
exactly.
the time. I mean, it's hard for me to read a book while I'm driving.
Yeah. Exactly. It's hard for me to find time to sit down and read a book, but I can
See,
listen to
so
an audiobook
great.
when I'm at
See,
the
so
gym or going for a walk or cooking dinner. It's fantastic.
it works. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, right? Pretty
Right.
interesting. Now, if we could just get somebody to like read it to us in the sexy, you know how you can program your phone in like the sexy voice you want?
Mhm.
Like if we could just pick the author for all the books, I think that's actually coming. Where like, and so I think now I don't know if I dreamt it, saw it in a movie, or it's real. Where like you can scan the book and it'll read it the way you want it read. I think that might actually.
I'm sure that AI somewhere, if they don't have that capability, they will very
Right.
soon,
So
because
they
a
could be like,
narrator can really make or break a story.
right, like we
Absolutely.
could be like, I
100%.
love Melissa's podcast. I want her to read me all of my books in person to me from now on. And we could just
Yeah,
pick
that's not going to happen.
no. I don't know, there might be a good see after we do our laundry business, there might be a good business in that too. We're never
Okay.
going to retire, Melissa. Just new
Just read
ideas.
all the books. That's okay. And we're going to have to live to 112 to be able to get everything done that we want to get done.
Yes. And if you're like me and you've got a lot of laundry, you're going to need some audiobooks in your life because it's a lot of laundry.
All right, Dr. Cindy, where can people find you if they want to get a hold of you, if they want to learn more, if they want to learn more about your book, about your public speaking, your podcast, whatever? What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Oh boy, there's so many ways. So from a speaking standpoint, and I love to speak. So if you think I could be a great keynote speaker for you, see, I couldn't even say the word speaker. How am I going to do on stage if I can't say the word speaker? If you think I could be an entertaining speaker for you, how's that instead of great?
There you go.
I would love to be considered, but all things around my speaking in my book, you can check me out at drcindyspeaks.com.
Okay.
If you'd love to shoot me an email, and we do answer them, it's hello@drcindyspeaks. The business, because I'm still in business, I love to take care of patients. I'm going to probably do that until I'm dead, 112. So I've got some more time. That's innovativehwc.com is the business website. And I'm all over LinkedIn and Instagram. And I think I even have a couple TikToks where the kids punked me. If you search my name, I think you could probably find those. And I'm all over YouTube, just Dr. Cindy Speaks or Dr. Cindy Howard, and you'll find me.
Okay. And we will put all of that in the show notes as well as a link to buy your book. All right. So I asked this of all of my guests. So if you were to come across someone who was just diagnosed with cancer or is in the midst of overwhelm from a diagnosis and doesn't really know, their head from their other end, what is one piece of advice that you would give them to just help put them on the road through this process?
Breathe. Just breathe. You have to just stop it. Oh, look, I just got chills thinking about that.
Me
Like
too.
I mean, I have a million pieces of advice, but that's absolutely the first one is just stop, be quiet, and just breathe. And then just listen. And you'll get guided where to go, right? When you listen to yourself, but you've got to find the quiet and you've got to find the breath. And when you screw it up 100 times, just stop and breathe again. Because I think we breathe because we have to. We don't ever breathe with intention, most of us. And when we breathe with intention, answers come and clarity comes and guidance comes, answers come, peace comes, happiness comes. So just breathe.
And with very few exceptions, when you are given a diagnosis, you do have time. You have the time to breathe, to listen, and to go, and to hear what God, the universe, your gut, whatever you want to call it, has to say for your higher good.
Agreed.
Love it. All right.
Me too.
Well, thank you so much for this conversation today. This was so fun and so informative, and I'm just so excited that we got to know each other. And I just wish you such amazing success and love and happiness, and continuing to be cancer free, and take off that mark on the 20-year, because it's not going to happen.
It's off. That was just there's no 20-year calendar. There's the calendar where I take my last breath at 112 because I didn't wake up. That's the calendar I've got. So
okay.
No, thank you.
Like
and I wish the same for you. Listen, it's a club I never thought I wanted to be a part of, but I love the club. I love the people. We're good peeps, and we got to keep doing good work so that, we build our tribe.
Absolutely. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
I will. You too.
All
Thank you.
right. Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.